Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience.
Uh-huh.
One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build With ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring-Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss. And she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build With ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt, yeah.
Episode 36.
36
Yeah.
episodes.
That's crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, because it seems like we just started this.
We're coming up on a year, though. I was
I
looking
know.
at it like our year anniversaries here in a few weeks, I think, or
Yeah.
a month.
Getting
So-
close.
Yeah, it's kind of wild in a year. I mean, and we set out with a goal to do 52, do one every week. We came pretty close. I know we've kind of laid off as
Work-
of recently, so we've
Work
been
got in the way.
Yeah,
Other stuff got
season.
in the way. Yeah, but
so it's been the struggle to get to that. It felt like, but it kind of went fast. All of a sudden, at the end, we're like, oh, I guess we did
Yeah.
get 36. Kind
Yeah.
of wild.
it's crazy. And then booking guests. I know we've had a little bit where we've not had some guests, but we do have some scheduled coming up.
Yeah,
It's just everybody
slow
was
time.
busy this year, which is great. I mean, it's a great problem to have. So
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. We're kind of getting back on people's schedule a little bit. Everybody's kind of push back. But that's what we've been kind of doing some of our own episodes here, which is kind of what we planned anyways, but we'll get some more people on. We've got another episode coming up here next week. We've got scheduled to do Element ICF. So
Yes.
that's going to be good. Part of Logic's company. And so we've got them coming on, and that's going to be cool because it's the coolest block now coming out, right?
newest
And
one on the market.
the hottest thing, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. So we're excited about that. But today we're getting a little more topical, and I know we talk about this a little bit more. If you listen to the podcast, everybody kind of knows we live up in the mountains, so we have different issues than say a lot of our friends do down in Arizona or Texas or California, Florida. Anyway, so, but it has come up, and we get people asking about going into winter, what we're going to do for, how do you deal with winter builds and stacking ICF in the winter and things like that, and different challenges that come up. Even questions like, do we need to hold off? Do we just, do we call it until spring, or, what do you do? So that's just come up a bunch, and I do apologize for some of our listeners down that do not deal with snow and don't have to worry about that at all. This may not be the
Well, they
episode
can-
for you, so sorry, but we did have quite a few people asking about it. And it's something we deal with a lot, so it's an easy topic for us because it's something that, we deal with for quite a few months out of the year.
Well, and if you don't, like our friends, we got some friends in Tucson, they deal with, like, if it's a torrential rain, they don't work. Or if
Yeah.
it's too hot, they can't get guys. I mean, everybody has their challenges in the
Yeah,
market.
it's
It's
just
just different
different.
things. So we'll get them on to talk about some of the things that they're seeing in their market, because I know we had a call with them with regards to some other stuff. So
Yeah, we were talking with them the other day, did a Zoom call with them, and it was funny because we were like, yeah, things are finally slowing down. We're able to get things, and they're like, oh, well, we're ramping up. Like, this is the time. They're like, because it's not hot, and everyone wants to go out and work during the, their winter is their hot season, or their busy season, because it's not hot. So just crazy. You don't think about it because you get stuck in your own little bubble up here, and we're going, yeah, it's snowing here, and they're like, oh, it's 90 here,
Yeah.
But it's just kind of wild. But anyway, it's pretty cool. So kind of going over some of the things. First and foremost, to answer your question, no, you don't have to wait till spring. You can push right through the winter with ICF, which is one of the biggest selling points when I was actively out selling in the Western U.S. and had a big territory, 11 states, and trying to cover different areas. I would always promote into those colder areas in the wintertime. I knew a lot of guys that said, oh yeah, we just head south for the, do you go and just sell to the southern people in the winter and ignore your people up north? And believe it or not, we actually, there was kind of a niche market to building with ICF in the winter, I actually would land some accounts that would not normally use ICF during the wintertime. So, and that being because of the fact that the ICF can go in the wintertime when maybe your standard forms and stuff, they're not able to.
Like on a basement, it would be really expensive to get blankets and have to blanket an entire basement wall so that you can pour heat and insulate it.
Tinted or whatever you got to do.
Yeah, versus doing that with ICF, you've got the foam that acts as that insulation. It goes in, hot, the concrete does, with some chemicals and some, they use hot water and all those different things that they do. It goes in it and stays warm. So it makes it to where you can keep building in the wintertime in some of those areas.
Yeah, I mean, just to think, just for anyone, just trying to imagine the real basics of this. So, the key to concrete is you have to keep it, they want it 50 degree Fahrenheit or 10 Celsius for 3 days is what they want to get it to cure correctly and adequately, right? Is what they're looking for. So you can imagine if you've just got pieces of plywood or even or worse, like metal form boards, right? They're cold, and so you're losing that heat. The concrete comes out cooking; it's actually making its own heat. So the chemical reaction of concrete, and while it's curing and being mixed, it's putting off its own heat. So you can. That's why they blanket like flat work and stuff like that. But it's really hard on walls because the concrete wants to just shoot the heat right out the sides of those 3/4 plywood or the Simon's forms or whatever. So with the insulated concrete form, you've got the 2.5 inches of foam on either side or more, and you're basically keeping that heat, and it's just kind of bouncing off itself inside. And really, the only place it can get out is it's going to try to find the easiest route, and it's going to go out the top. So the key is just getting that top sealed off, right? So knowing that, it's way easier just to seal off a 8 or 6 inch section of the top of the wall. So we get a lot of customers who are coming in and buying ICFs that don't normally buy ICFs during the summer because they are using their form boards that they own and they've been doing it forever, their habit, whatever. But they've got a job or they just want to keep their guys working because otherwise they got to lay everybody off. So I've had some concrete guys that will come to us in the wintertime and be like, yeah, I'll do ICFs during the winter, because my guys want to keep working. It can extend our season.
They have jobs to do. Housing is going and they got jobs to do.
Yep.
You can't just wait all the time.
So way easier to just throw up ICF and not have to worry about that when you're getting down into the cold weather. So that's the main thing. Yes, you can pour these through. We actually, your very first house you ever did, we actually took. This is kind of a cool trick. If anybody's listening, you want to do this, it's kind of fun. You go to the store and buy some cheap meat thermometers and just analog, meat thermometers, stick them through the foam before you pour the concrete or right after while it's still wet. But you can get the temperature inside the wall, which I can't remember what it was when we first put it in there, but it was
78.
That's where it was after, but it was in the 80s or 90s, I think, when we first initially put it in there. But we came back, and day after day we would come back and check it, and 3 days in, it was still sitting at 70-something, 78 degrees after 3 days. Because I know after one full night at below zero, it was still at 85 degrees the second day.
Well, and when we were waiting for the trucks to show up, number one, we had to double check when we were getting ready for this because that was the year we called it Snowmageddon. It snowed so much and then it was so cold. I had a time-lapse camera on the property. This property that we were building, the first house I did, was on the lot was level, but then the lots behind it were up and elevated higher. So I kind of stair-stepped down the hill. So I stuck a time-lapse camera aimed at our job on the fence of the rear neighbor who was sitting, I don't know, probably 30 feet higher than us. But then, the ground came out and went down. So we would watch that time-lapse camera at the end of it, and it snowed so much that it buried the camera, up there, a 4-foot tall fence. It was burying the camera day after day. So we'd go up and uncover it with the snow and the wind and everything. But it was so cold, we weren't sure, number one, if we were going to be able to get concrete that day. Because sometimes when it's too cold, the concrete plants don't open.
Well, there's no run. There's not a lot of people
are doing
it, right?
Yeah.
Well, the whole that house there, that area alone was pretty much shut down for weeks because it was so cold and it was so much snow and stuff going on. And we were just plowing right through it. And everybody's like, how are you still building? It's like, well, it's ICF.
The guys still wanted to work and like shorter hours, obviously. And, but the guys still wanted to work and we poured. I think it was 13 degrees when we started that day, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got pictures of it.
Yeah. I mean, just crazy cold outside. But I think more to the point on this is if the concrete company will open up in batch and you can get concrete to you, you can keep going.
So so there is no need to shut her down in the wintertime and you can keep going. We will talk about some of the challenges of doing it though. I mean, they're just factually, we're not going to candy coated. It's not as easy. There's challenges to it. So it is something that, yes, there's benefits to being able to work through the winter. You're getting some stuff done. You're getting ahead of it rather than just shutting down and going to, zero. You're working at, 75% instead of 100% just because you're dealing with other things. One of the biggest things is you're dealing with, usually if there's cold, you're dealing with some sort of moisture.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got moisture that is getting into the nubs of the block. We call them ice cube trays. Basically you're making ice cubes. And so the water, even just at night, the frost will get in there and then melt during the day when the sun hits it. And it freezes and then it keeps freezing. You keep having to, before you can stack the next row, you're picking ice out. Or I've seen guys go through there with weed burners and different things, just trying to heat gun it out, whatever they can do to try to get the water to drain out. I know some of the newer blocks have come out with actual drainage grooves in them.
Oh, okay.
And I've seen a couple of those. I've just noticed, I can't think right now the brands, but I've just noticed that that's been a thing that people have said, yeah, let's put a groove in there so the water drains out. It's kind of cool. But like you literally are going through, and I mean, we've done that in the past. You basically take a weed blower or a handheld torch and because the ICF is fire resistant, it will melt, but it's not going to catch on fire. So you can heat it up to the point that it'll actually melt the water out. And then usually what we do is combine it with a leaf blower and blow the water out is the best way to do it. But
I have a funny story and I've got pictures of this. It was comical. So I think our listeners have heard me talk about when we went into a subdivision and myself and my assistant stacked a whole house, just the two of us girls. Well, one of those houses that we stacked we started, I think, the day after Thanksgiving.
It was a winter build.
It was a winter build. And we were it was snowing during the day, but it didn't snow overnight. But the frost and like just a little bit of, frost got in there. So as it thawed out, we got there a little bit later. And I was up on the scaffolding, going around putting them on there, and she was throwing everything up to me. And as I would put them into place and kind of hit them down to go and lock into the nubs, she was getting sprayed in the face because she was right there below the scaffolding as she was handing it up. And it was just the perfect height for the water just to come shooting out of there every time. And so we learned real quick that when we left for the day, we would go around and just cover all the nubs with whatever we had, cardboard, tape, whatever we could find on site, that we had. And the blocks that we were using then came with cardboard on the corners. So we just started saving that and putting that on the top of the blocks so that when we got there in the morning, they didn't have ice cubes or, snow, whatever in them. But it was pretty comical as we're going through, and it just kept happening because you just get in a rhythm and you're just throwing them up there, and she was standing right there below me and just got hit every time.
And I think that's probably people listening are like, well, why don't you just cover everything? That is the smarter move, obviously, to cover it. And that's what would be the next suggestion. And a lot of times it's just even during the day while you're working.
It does,
where
it starts snowing.
Where we work, we've had days where we get 12 inches of snow in a work day. We're constantly clearing the job site. It's constant.
We get snow, we get rain, we get fog, and then sun. Yeah. And
just all kind of adds.
Everything.
So you can't really avoid it during the day. It's kind of hard. You got to keep dealing with it. But yes, at night. So the next thing that we suggest is doing some sort of cover over it where because you're eventually going to want to blanket the top anyways, or cover the top and insulate. So if you do have some small blankets out there that you're going to, cover, you could use those every night and put them up there. Guys, a lot of times we'll just stick Visqueen. I've seen Tyvek is another good thing that you can throw up there and just screw it or staple it or whatever. Usually tape doesn't usually work in the wet. Cold. So, and it's cold and it's wet. So the easy thing would be to tape it. You can't really pull that off in the real world, but usually you can throw things up there, and we've done a lot of different ways. Hammer tacker with the the visqueen over the top works great. The other thing, I've never done this, but I've had this suggested to me that guys use in the wintertime is they'll do the steel studs. So you can actually buy steel, just go buy a bunch of steel studs. Are fairly inexpensive. They're not super expensive, but you could buy enough lineal to go around, and the steel studs actually have a groove in them. You just slide them right over it. So like a C stud, that they just slide right over the top, and they just kind of, that way you don't have to hold them down or anything. The weight alone will hold them down. So that's a real easy way to kind of cover it up and cover those nubs. But the other thing is that guys will use is just plywood.
Yeah.
Just sheets of plywood, or cut strips of plywood and throw them up over there, and just kind of, that way they don't have to move them. They can take them off each day, put them back on. So, but yeah, keeping the liquid, whether it be fog, snow, rain, whatever, out of the nubs is a big part of it. Another part of it is just keeping the job site accessible. That's one of the things that you kind of have to worry about. You need to think about a little bit is where you place, especially if you have a storm coming, or you're going to be dealing with it. Say you're getting a delivery to a job that is a winter job. Think about your placement of your block so you're not, in a dangerous situation, having guys climb up and down a icy, hill to get in there. Put it down where guys can get to it without having to, do too much moving around is a big part of it. So make sure that kind of thinks ahead a little bit more in your process, because again, that's, your winter just makes everything harder, it's just harder to walk up and down the hills. It's just, people are sliding. You don't want guys falling down, getting hurt and stuff like that.
Well, and one of the things that people don't think about, whether it's stick frame or ICF construction, because I've seen this on stick frame before I switched over to ICF, but the lumber company comes and does your delivery, and they drop all your lumber that you need for your first floor, and they drop all the adhesive too for the floors, the glue, and that can't freeze because then it no longer works. So like the adhesive that we use when we're locking it down after the first 2 rows, you don't want to leave that glue out
don't
overnight.
Let that freeze.
Make sure you take that with you home every night. Don't leave it in your truck. Take it. We have a torpedo heater that we use on the job sites, and so when we get there in the morning, we'll bring the glue out if it's going to be sitting out and make sure it's sitting around heated area. We also have a heated trailer, that we utilize on our job sites. But just a couple of those things that you think about, for heat for your guys. If you can have it inside the job site, keeping everybody warm and keeping it kind of thawed out. It does tend to get a little bit muddy at times, though.
Yeah, that's always the bad part of it. That's when you love the slab work. When you've got a slab, that's another thing I'll say. If you have an option of doing a slab on grade or doing, something like, because a lot of times guys will say, well, I'm going to just put the footer in, then I'm going to, work in the dirt, build the walls up, and then come back in and put the flat work in later. In the wintertime, there should be more of a consideration to do a slab ahead of time. So doing, yes, it is a 2-step process. You got to come in, put in the stem walls and pour and blah, 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 or a thickened edge slab or something like that. But you may add another trip for your pump truck, but I promise you, working in the wintertime off of a slab is way better than working in the mud.
Well, easy, makes it a lot easier, but on top of that, it's safer for your people. So you don't, because when you're working on a slab, when we can screw our alignment system into that slab rather than having rebar sticking.
Pounding rebar in the winter is another really fun thing to do. So
and by fun you mean
horrible.
Awful.
Yeah, horrible. It's not fun. So these are all things are, like I said, they're challenges, and it's definitely something that's not as easy to deal with as it is in the summertime. But it's something that you can do. Like there is that option where with wood frame construction and just standard construction, these are way bigger challenges for them. I mean, we see it all the time up here where people get really concerned because you get wood construction out there, and then like I said, we get 12 24 18 24 inches in over a 24 to 48 hour period, and it gets covered. And I mean, we had a job that we did up in the mountains last year where the homeowner actually hoisted a snowblower onto the second floor and was using a snowblower to get it off of the wood floors on the second floor so that we could, finish up what was going on, so they could finish up what was going on so they could get the roof on in time. So The concern with that is now you've got moisture sitting on the wood and sitting, in your, like you said, the lumber company comes and drops stuff and it's just sitting there getting snowed on. Well, it's also sitting there absorbing the moisture. I mean, that's something that's going to continue to be in the wood and in there, and over time you got to worry about mold and moisture and issues like that. So one of the great things about the ICF is it's not going to soak up the moisture. It's not going to, it's going to deal with the moisture just fine. You just got to make sure that you're clearing the moisture off of any of the wood, say you're doing the second story, the wood floors and stuff like that need to still be, covered up or taken care of, because you don't want the moisture in there. But that's a huge concern up here. We see houses all the time, and it blows my mind, that just sit with 2 or 3 feet of snow on them all winter, and then they come right back in, they scrape the snow off, they put some air dryers on them and think that they're good, and I'm just like, there's still got to be moisture in those crawl spaces and all those different places. So big selling point to do an ICF in the wintertime is just not having to deal with the absorption issues that you deal with wood framing materials and sheathing and stuff like that. So very much consideration as well. And then just one of the things that people talk about is speed. The speed of construction 100%. In winter is even more important than it is in the summertime, because if you can get those walls thrown up in a week or whatever and get, you get a decent week, a decent weather, you can thread the needle a lot easier. And we do that all the time. We'll watch something. We're like, okay, looks like we're going to have some good weather for a week. Let's go bust this out, have the trusses ready. And we fly the trusses on, and it's bang, bang, bang. Like we get that in there, we let the walls secure, we pull our alignment, we throw the roof on, and then we're in and out of there very, very quickly within a few weeks. And so that's another reason why you should be considering ICF for a winter build more so than sometimes even in the summertime, because that speed part is going to be a big part of it. And I know I said that you are going to be working slower than your summer build, but it's still going to be, even a 75% speed on an ICF is still going to be way faster than the stick frame guys trying to get that up there and sealed in, because, they can stand the walls. Okay, well, they still have to sheathe them. They still have to frame it, and then they have to cover them somehow. They got to get them covered before they get snow and moisture on them.
And even think about this, and we were talking about this the other day when we went and took a walk, because we have one of our neighbors that is building, like their house comes in like pre-made panels. It was assembled. It's like a log home structure assembled somewhere else. And they're out there. The guys have been out there putting rebar together and doing everything for the stem wall. It took them like 2 weeks to get all the stem wall, the rebar all hooked together, tied together, everything, and then get the form boards up. And then we're cold. And so then they have to tent it and heat it for a few days so that the ground isn't frozen around it and everything is nice and warm before they can get the concrete to come in there. And I remember walking by going, we would have had that done. Even this time of year with it snowing, we'd have been done with that stem wall maybe 2 days.
Maybe, yeah. It's not a big
It's not
job.
a big stem wall.
And
It's
they've
not
been there
huge.
for a couple weeks, yeah.
I mean, there's a 4-foot part stem wall, but not huge at all. We would have been in and out of there so quick, and they could have been setting, because their panels, their house is sitting down the road on a vacant lot.
Yeah, it's sitting right up the road, ready to be stacked, and so and they'll be able to get through,
They will,
because of the speed of being pre-assembled offsite, built.
But still, they would have been able. They would have been even a week ahead of where they are now, because they were, they took so long to get that stuff in there, because they weren't. It was hard to work in the weather and everything else, and having to tie all that rebar. That is a huge benefit with utilizing ICF for stem walls, is you don't have to tie all that rebar.
Yeah. No, you're snapping, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's so easy. So anybody that's selling ICF in an area that gets snow, you really have a huge market to go out and market to in the wintertime, because this could speed up. They don't got to go back to the job site and pull forms. They don't. I don't know.
The guys that maybe fight you a little bit during the summertime because they already own form boards, they know how to use them. They don't want to try something different. You have a little bit of an advantage in the summer or in the wintertime over the summertime, because you want to keep working, you want to keep making money, you want to keep your guys busy, you want to speed up the process because you don't want to be out in the cold that long. This is your chance to really try something different and to try it. And I did see quite a few of those guys that stayed on come summertime. They're like, oh, that's pretty easy. And I mean, you got some of your guys that just because they've got trailers and trailers and trailers of form boards and they don't want to waste them. But over the years, I've seen a lot of guys that did it in the wintertime, stayed with it. So it's a good thing to get going on and do that. So the one thing that you got to, like we keep talking about covering the tops and stuff. So after getting it full, obviously everything's good. You get everything set up. You do need to blanket that top because you don't want that top freezing because it'll freeze the moisture. And a lot of the moisture, I remember more so in an ICF than there even in a standard form is there's a lot of water that's coming up through the top. The moisture is working its way out the top more so than it is through a wood board where it can get out and kind of seep out through the sides and down the bottom and different things where it doesn't do that as much with the ICF. So it is crucial to get that top covered and keep it heated. And there's a couple different ways. Like I said, blankets are real easy. Guys, they'll go out and rent blankets or they own blankets. They can cover it with a blanket. It's kind of overkill because usually the blankets are pretty big. But the other option that I've seen people do is they'll actually just take flat sheet, so an EPS or a poly sheet that they basically polyiso or EPS, and they basically cut it down into the measurement of the board, or the 11 inches or 13 inches, whatever you're putting down, and then just put that over the top and screw it down, put some screws through it or stake it down somehow into the end of the foam and just let it basically seal, and they'll do the same thing. So good either way to do that, but you definitely want to make sure you're covering up your top as soon as you get it poured, as soon as you get it, it's obviously you can't do it right because it's got to be troweled and flat, but once it sets up just for a little bit, boom, get it covered. Don't let it sit out too long because you'll get that slough off. It'll freeze off on the top. You'll get a really bad mix or strength on the top, and you got to put your seal plate right on that. So you don't want to have that be that way. But lastly, I would say the last thing that I would advise in a winter build is you have to keep in mind that this is the time where I'm always a big proponent of how strong our webs are. The webs are super strong, 198 pound pull out on most of them. Some of them are 170, whatever, but close to 200 pounds of pull out on a polypropylene web. Not as good in the wintertime. So I will admit in the wintertime, if you're putting siding on, you can break and blast a brittle. If they get brittle, they'll snap and they'll break, and you won't get the pull out that you're looking for. You won't get the actual fastener will bust through it. So you do have to. It's crucial if you're going to do siding and stuff in the wintertime. If it's down in the cold temperatures and you're getting down to freezing and it's staying at that freezing level and the house isn't heating up in the afternoon on the wall, then you're probably going to need to go screws for sure. And even that you need to be careful with. So just be aware that your polypropylene does get very brittle when it's cold. So you need to make sure you're testing those and making sure that they are in good shape. And I've seen them, even in cold temperatures, they still do very well if the sun's out. Like sun beating on it, they definitely will heat up. And even when it's ambient temperature outside's cold, you can still nail or screw to that web if it's getting sunlight. But it's funny, you go onto the shady side of the house and you could pop a web. So just be aware of that's something that you need to be cautious of if you're shooting ring shank nails into put your siding on in the winter. It can blow them up, or even, like I said, screws can even split them out. So just be aware of that it's going to be brittle.
I think it's even like kind of the same on the inside, because typically, so you go through, you stack your ICF, you let's say you can throw your roof on right away and get it all dried in. Then you bring in your subcontractors to start doing electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, and they're starting to cut, and do stuff and attach to the webs. So, like I said, heat up that inside because it is like a giant styrofoam cooler. It will stay.
It stays warm and it stays cold.
Exactly. So, you just don't think about just on the outside. On the inside, you got to do some of those same things too as you're starting to do those rough-ins and getting all that ready, and then turn the heat on in there so that you can start, go through and do your foam seal and all that kind of stuff, because you can't do that when it's freezing either.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. I will say that we get a lot of compliments from subs in the wintertime saying how warm it is inside that house versus a stick frame house and how they're not used to that. And I mean, as soon as we get those trusses on, I mean, even without windows in, it's crazy. Like you can have open windows and just having an open air window there, and it's still 20 degrees warmer inside that place.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but during COVID, I had 2 houses going that were basement houses, 2-story houses. And there was all of a sudden a furnace shortage. So we did all the rough in and did everything for the furnaces that were going to go in at the end. And then we didn't have like one of them for whatever reason. We didn't get the furnace and we were starting drywall. So I had like 3 heaters. This one was a 3-story. It was the basement, the main level, and then it had an ADU over the garage. And I had 3 heaters, one on each level, just little thermostat electric heaters, nothing fancy. And the guys were like, there's no way we're going to be able to, drywall and do this and do that. And those houses stayed warm the whole time with just that little bit of heat in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, big benefit to getting, as soon as you get that house, dried in. There's some challenges of getting it done in the wintertime, but once it's done, it's
once you're dried in,
light years ahead of regular stick frame, and your subs will appreciate it. You can work in there. It's super great. So it's, big benefit again. So all in all, there's some challenges to building in the wintertime, but there's a lot of challenges to build. There's challenges in every kind of construction in the wintertime. But I believe that, like I said, a little bit of slowdown, but a lot of advantages to switching over to ICF and considering that when you're working in the wintertime. So doesn't mean you have to stop what you're doing. You can power right through the wintertime with a few little adjustments that we spoke of, but no, keep hammering. And if you're out there, if your sales guys listening to this is a great opportunity to go out there and get business from some of those stem wall, just foundation companies that you haven't maybe been doing business with, and just, knock on their door and say, hey, have you ever thought about maybe switching out to ICF in the wintertime because of these insulation factors and because of what we just said, how it works. So go out there and get some more business. I know this is our slow time. So usually in cold areas anyways, this is our slow time, not for Edith and Daniel down in Tucson. They're just getting ramped up, but we, this is the time you got maybe some more time to make those calls and stop in to see those guys because they are slow and maybe they're looking for an opportunity. So this is a good time to be out promoting ICF and selling it during the quote unquote slow time. So yeah. I think that's about it. We are continuing to ask for more suggestions, people that we want to hear and be on the show. I promise you, if you've sent them in to us, we've reached out to them, and we just are waiting for scheduling times to get people on. So every time someone DMs us a new idea, I reach out to them. We've had a few people that just aren't interested, or just they're like, nah, I'm not good at that, or I don't. They get nervous. It's kind of, I'm like, we're just having a conversation. Normal people talking about what we do. So it's kind of funny. People get a little freaked out about it, but we have had some interesting, suggestions, and sometimes they have worked out, sometimes not. But please keep sending us suggestions of things you want to hear. I can't believe we're saying this, but we're getting close to World of Concrete time here, coming around the corner.
I know. It's exciting.
It's going to be crazy.
We have one of our projects that we were the supplier on that is up for an award this year.
I know, super stoked.
Yeah.
So one of our customers is up for small residential at the World of Concrete, the ICF Awards. So we will be there for that, obviously. So hopefully we see some listeners there, and we obviously will be at World of Concrete the whole week. I say we, but you're not going to be there this year.
I'm not going to be there, but I'm sending you with backup.
Yeah, lots of young backup is what I've got. So I will have all of our crew with us. And
you'll have the drafting crew, you'll have the building products crew, you'll have stacking crew, you'll have everybody.
Oh yeah, it's going to be me and a bunch of 21-year-olds, but no, I guess they're not all 20. Some are 25, but yeah, it's going to be something. But no, we'll be down there. But yeah, things are coming up. World of Concrete's coming up, so make sure you're getting get your plans together to go to that. Let us know if you have any questions. Shoot us any questions. We're happy to talk about different things that we like to make sure we get done, and make sure you get to the ICF Builder Awards. They're going to be awesome. ICF Builder Magazine. You can go on their website and sign up. I believe they're starting to take that, but
they are. I don't think it's opened yet. I think it'll be in. Maybe it's in this issue. I can't remember, but that room does. I mean, it sells out. It fills up real fast. I say sells out because they give away the tickets to go to it. So, but you get there and it's standing room.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, people.
They've expanded as much as they possibly can in that venue. So it's awesome to see the turnout. The other thing is for questions, as our listeners are submitting those, we did get our website fixed, as I said on our last podcast, or maybe the one before. And I have been getting notifications when people are asking questions. So that's awesome. So thank you to everybody that's still submitting questions, and we've been getting right back to you. So it's super cool that that's working now, and we're getting the notifications. If it comes in the middle of the night, obviously I'm not answering that right away, but we're getting questions there. So we do need to do another Q&A episode coming up here pretty soon too, because we got a good list.
Yeah. And then, and still keep tagging us. We want to get people going on like Instagram and different things. If you guys want to tag us on Instagram at Build With ICF, and maybe put in there, tag the podcast in there, what you're, listening to the podcast, what you like about it, anything like that. We are going to be giving away some swag. We got some new shirts out that we're doing.
They're on the website too. I got that done.
Oh, okay, cool. So you can go to the website, buildwithicf.com, go check out the shirts that are available, ICF shirts that we have out there. So doing stuff like that. So yeah, anything you guys have, any information or questions or anything like that you want regarding World of Concrete, the Builder Awards, any of our stuff.
The Builder Show, with NAHB, we've got the International Builder Show coming up as well.
Yeah.
That's the end of February, but that's a really good show to go to as well.
A lot of concrete stuff going on there and a lot of construction stuff there. So
not as much as the World of Concrete. No. I will admit that is a sight to see all those pump trucks and concrete trucks and all that stuff in that building. If you haven't been, it's not expensive to go to Las Vegas and go look at the show. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, and we'd love to see you there and let us know. We'll be wandering around and talking with people. I don't know if we're going to take the equipment this year, but probably won't do any recording there this year, but happy to meet up with people and chat. So hit us up. Let us know at Build With ICF on all the socials. I finally got back up and going on Twitter.
X.
Or X, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It'll always be Twitter
I
to
know,
me.
I know.
So X, Twitter, at Build With ICF. So we are on there. So if you guys are X users, Twitter users, hit us up on there. And then Instagram, obviously, Facebook, we're on Facebook groups, all that stuff. And then info at buildwithicf.com. That's our standard email to send stuff to. But if there's anything we can do, let us know.
And until next time.
On to episode 37.
I know.
I can't believe it.
Wow.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. We'll talk soon.